Welcome back with another episode, or actually the second episode of the Everything Higher Ed podcast. I got some great people with me today. Dr. DiBiase, Jason Pfaff, who's been on here probably five, six, seven times, and then my fellow Penn Stater, Jeremy Bean, who just recorded an episode a few weeks ago, actually. So we had so much fun, we got him back pretty quick. Just real quick, if you guys could just introduce yourself to the audience. Dr. DiBiase, I'll start with you.
All right, thanks. Great to be here. Yes, I currently serve as the provost at West Coast University, and I'm excited to chat with everyone about all things higher ed because I was sort of saying at the beginning there is a lot going on. It's an exciting time to be in higher education, and so I just look forward to the conversation. So thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. Happy New Year to you.
Absolutely. Jason, you want to go next?
Yeah, man. My name is Jason. I am the CEO of Catula Education. We operate four unique brands in the higher ed sphere, which are emblematic of four what I believe to be fantastic institutions for the students that find opportunity with us. Aviation Institute of Maintenance. We have 15 locations across the United States. In any given year, we train 20 to 25% of the nation's aircraft mechanics, depending on the year, which is, uniquely significant market share in any sector of higher ed. For one institution to serve 25% of the market is pretty unique. We bear and are proud of that responsibility and are very active in aviation around the world. We also operate Sinclair College with three institutions which teach allied health and a growing electrical presence. We offer electrical high voltage line worker, in addition to pre-apprentice journeyman electrician programs at Centura. And then we have Tidewater Technical College, two locations there, construction trades as well as auto, in addition to welding. And we have what we believe is to be the largest maritime welding / shipbuilding program in the United States. Shipbuilding
Nice.
is a program that is garnering more and more attention and enthusiasm and energy in this country as we look to rebuild our nation's infrastructure. We are very proud to lead the way in shipbuilding as well as aviation, allied health, and electrical. So thanks, man. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely. All right, Jeremy.
Thanks, Kumar. So Jeremy Bean, I'm AVP of Enterprise and Change and Transformation at Penn State. I sit in the office of the president, though I like to say I have four bosses: our provost and senior executive vice president, our senior executive vice president of finance and business, and vice president of research. So I report kind of to all four, and the role of our office is to take any sort of large strategic initiative of the institution and figure out, in a big R1 multi-campus institution, how to implement across the entire organization. I've been here for 14 years, and I will echo Provost DiBiase, and it is an exciting yet trying time to be in higher education. So if you like challenge, I think now is the right time to be here. So glad to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Dr. DiBiase, I'd love for you to tell me, keep saying so much is going on in higher ed. What does that mean? Share some of it with us.
Well, I think we've got everything from artificial intelligence and what we're all just trying to, I think we're at the point of embracing it now, whereas the last time we chatted, I think it was just, should we even embrace it? So now we're at the
Sure.
point of embracing it, and it's there, it's not going anywhere. And so I think we've accepted that. And I think we've accepted it at all levels within most of our higher ed institutions. So from the front end and all the way through, accepting that our students are using it. And so now we're really moved into this phase of, I feel, true partnership as we're trying to see what it can do. But with that, it just has brought, I think, some new levels of anxiety in terms of, now that it's probably integrated into our systems, how are we governing this thing? Now that we've brought it into our house, if you say, if you
Right.
will. But what is this house guest doing? How much free reign are we going to give it? And so spending a lot of time just trying to chase the advent of that and make sure that we're still we're partnering in a healthy way that is operationally efficient, but not compromising academic rigor or academic integrity. That has been where I've been spending a lot of my time because, like I said, it's here, and no one wants to be a Luddite and not accept that it's within higher. I mean, this is what we do. We're in higher education. We should be in the business of embracing and interacting with such technological advances and preparing graduates to be competent employees that can use it in their future workplaces and change the world. We also just need to be making sure that we're protecting our institutions. So that's just one thing. We have a lot of changes happening within accreditation, a lot of things happening with laws that we need to stay on top of. So for me, it's the conferences. And I don't know if my colleagues feel the same, but you're just like, there's so much going on. I need to go to absolutely all of these conferences all the time. You read all of the newsletters and all of the things. So I think we're in this information overflow, overload, and there's change that we're being buffeted on all sides. And it's where do I put my time, energy, and resources, and how do I manage yet embrace? Because it's not necessarily that I'm rebuffing the change. It's change management, change leadership, and we need to grow. We need to be changing and moving, but there's just been so much happening. It's hard to take that time for reflection to make sure that we're leading and moving and managing in the directions that are going to be provide long-term stability and success. So that's in a summary, some of the challenges I'm feeling. I don't know if my colleagues are dealing with any of the same.
Yeah, Jason took himself off mute, so I think he's ready to go.
I don't know. I was just hanging out, man. I appreciate it. The interesting thing about AI, two things, and I think we were speaking to this, but I mean, the hunger for folks who are fluent in AI skills, regardless of what part of the company you may work in, is real in the private sector, right? Take HR. I mean, if you cannot use AI to scan resumes, applications, generate job postings, you will be left behind. And again, HR is not necessarily known as the most dynamic part of any company, right? Like we can talk about finance or marketing, and I think folks get how AI plays there, and somebody could even say, well, hey, I'm an HR purist. I think a human being should look through all those resumes. Guess what? Because of AI, you're getting thousands more resumes than you ever used to. You have to have a solution, and someone has to think critically about the role of technology. And I look at some institutions that are charging, upwards of $30,000 for a year of education towards an HR degree, and someone's going to graduate without any fluency in AI. I mean, it's just it's hard to reconcile. And I think what we've thought about in terms of AI as educators is often this relationship we have with students, right? Like, okay, how are we going to protect the sanctity of the academic, the academy, and what we're teaching and learning? And what I've encouraged a lot of folks to do, and certainly I try and do this in our own institutions, is just like, let's figure it out ourselves by figuring out how to make our own situation far more efficient. And how can we deploy this in our own institution, right? I think it's hard to ask faculty members to go on this journey to figure it out, and maybe what are the guardrails when we're not leveraging it for our own benefit. So I'm proud to say we've leaned forward in several areas in our institution, whether it's learning, marketing, finance, tech, HR. We have moved the needle as hard as we can. I still feel like we're way behind, but so I see it like on three tracks. There's like this internal functional thing we've got to get right. We've got to teach students how to use it, right? We teach aviation maintenance. If you walk into a hangar today, at an MRO, a maintenance repair organization, or an airline, folks are using AI diagnostics today in hangars professionally, right? And for us not to incorporate that, we're doing our students a disservice. So we have to figure that out in the teaching and learning function. So often I'm in circles where I tell folks, yeah, we're implementing AI in our curriculum, and I think we're actually moving pretty quick. I still think some folks have this paradigm that like, okay, AI is generating textbooks and there's hallucinations, and how can you be sure? I'm the son of two college professors. I can tell you the cynicism I get around Christmas dinner when I tell people we're in a college classroom and we're encouraging AI use. Because it's the first thing I get asked for. I was literally, true story, Kamar. I'm at our campus in Manassas last night, capital of the free world, Washington, D.C. Very first, I'm having dinner, partners are there. Very first question I get from a partner: how are you deploying AI in your classrooms so that when we look at your students coming out, we know that they're available and ready and able for this new world? And they're not actually looking for like hard and fast, have you trained them on X software? It's just, are they adaptable? Are they fluent? Do they have an open mind? Are they able to be in a hangar, pull out their phone, open an app, and follow schematics and chat with an AI chatbot? Because in a weird way, and we teach a largely, skilled trace based programs, a lot of this is, an airplane has a massive amount of, maintenance manuals, assembly manuals, FAA regs, and AI is really good at churning through that. And you can ask some questions about what's in the blueprints. There's probably 500 blueprints that go into an airplane, and I can ask a chatbot that can churn through that and give me some recommendations. It's assistive. No one's deploying AI to fix planes that you or I will fly in, but partners are like, this is such a time hack, and it shortens the maintenance cycle for our fleets. You guys have got to teach it in your classroom. So we don't see it as a choice. So I was kind of speaking through, there's three domains. One, we want to use it in our institution to administratively, operationally get more efficient. We want to lower costs. We want to lower tuition. We want to make ourselves more efficient. So we have a responsibility to look at automation and AI through that lens. Two, teaching our students about how to use AI for their form and function. And then three, as we were speaking earlier, there's this like interesting world where like, hey, if I'm asking somebody to write a paper, how do I know that they wrote it? And what's the penalty if I figure out that ChatGPT, there's like this academic governance piece that admittedly I don't have it figured out, but we're also really focused on the first two, and we don't write a lot of papers in airplane school. So I'm able just to focus on those. And it's actually been a lot of fun. It's been really cool.
Nice. Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll add yes and to everything Provost DiBiase said. And Jason, as a big one R1 institution, other disruptors to us have been sort of the federal granting landscape, and a lot of the changes coming out of OMB to overhead and FNA, and how does that impact our significant research input. And I'm right there with everyone else in the artificial intelligence space. In fact, I'm currently chairing a search for a vice provost of artificial intelligence for Penn State. I would say we're leaning toward. We're not all the way leaned in yet, but for many of the reasons that both Jason and Dr. DiBiase shared, in a really big organization like ours, there's a lot of moving parts to get on board in conversation. And I think we're taking artificial intelligence is probably the great disruptor of our time. I think there are things that are going to happen that we aren't even thinking about now, where the technology takes us. I think it's imperative as higher education that we do lean into. I kind of liken it to, when screwdrivers were invented, not using a screwdriver and saying, nope, we're going to stay with the old proverbial hammer and the nail, even though there's a better tool out there, right? Higher ed doesn't change fast. I think there's a good reason for that. We never stay paced with the market, and I think there's a reason and a good reason for that. However, when you get into a space of disruption, it can be a little harder to accelerate where you potentially need to, and what all of that means. I think about my 12-year-old and his digital ability compared to where I was at his age, which was nowhere because we didn't have any of this, right? And he's already talking about artificial intelligence and how he uses it and what about this and that. I'm like, wow, that's wild in the world that we're in. So I think we're moving in the direction we should be, but maybe at a pace that needs to be a little bit faster, focused on all the important parts. Interestingly, I don't know if anyone else has heard this as we've done research and talked to other peers, students saying they're more apt to use an off-the-shelf LLM or AI than a university branded one. They
Mm.
fear the university one is doing nefarious things, whereas a ChatGPT, OpenAI,
Mm.
Anthropic, they're not. So that's an interesting place we find ourselves in too, in what is it that our students are going to use and trust. I would think something branded with Penn State and behind all of our, important firewalls would be the piece, but hearing from students that that might not be the case. So
Do you
wild.
have your own walled garden?
What's that?
Do you have your own walled garden that they're using?
Not yet. So that's where we are right now. We're actually investing in building all of that capability. It's where I think most folks, at least faculty, feel more comfortable. Researchers feel more comfortable. So we'll see what happens. That's why we're kind of trying to understand where others are. We're also taking the approach of not investing in a singular platform, but multiple platforms, so people can pick and choose, but still behind our own sort of platform that will give us the added security benefits that we need.
Yeah, with one thing interesting, it's really interesting, and I agree with you. I'm also the son of two kids, college age. One's in college, one's a high school senior, and they do get married to a tool. Um, and it's interesting. What we've tried to think in terms of from a product perspective is just to me, words matter. If you just strip out the word artificial, it's all intelligence, right? And it's just how students are accessing it. And if you just use the paradigm of like, it's really a UI to access information, and we all get LLMs are organizing that on the back end in a fundamentally new and transformational way. But if you just give students the UI and break up the jobs, I think you pull them into your environment much quicker. For example, we've come up with a concept, no, we all know, like, and again, it's not two college professors I can say this, no one reads the syllabus, but everybody has questions about what's on it. So we've got syllabi, right? Our own LLM behind our firewall. We're just going to feed all the syllabi into it. We're not going to call it an LLM. It's not AI. It's just here's syllabi, right? And so in your student portal, when you have that class, just ask what's the attendance policy, and boom, right there. And students, I mean, they don't even think about it, right? It's so intuitive. It's just a UI. It's all intelligence. We're just deciding how and where and when you want to interact with it. And rather than like an umbrella one size fits all, because I totally agree with Jeremy, there's no way I can convince them that what I've got is better than ChatGPT. I've got one that solely knows aircraft drawings, and we put that in the LMS. I've got one that solely knows their syllabi, and I put that in the portal. And when that's broken up, it's all the same engine on the back end. I'm just giving them two different UIs that they feel like is personalized to that use case. They engage. I mean, they don't even think about it. It's just like, boom. What's the first assignment that's due? And that syllabot will tell them, right? And that's something that ChatGPT can't give them over time.
No. Go ahead, Dr. DiBiase.
Okay, I'm loving this idea. Okay, so you have in your portal, you have two specialized bots that can help your students answer questions. One's on syllabi and one's on the content around aviation mechanics. Is that correct? Or to help them? Wait, you're on mute.
Sorry, I don't know how that happened. Yeah, working concepts, but yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly right. And so,
that's
yeah,
really
you got it.
interesting.
Yeah, and you just give it to them as the UI.
Yeah, I
You just,
get it.
here's, it's all the same on the back end.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. That's very clever. I like how you both have acknowledged that the student has more trust or fidelity with the OpenAI, the
Yep.
ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is.
Sure.
And so you've hacked that fear or that loyalty all right by creating those bots. So you're like, okay, you're going to go to this, so let me figure out how to amplify this and specialize this. So you're kind of tricking them, but you're not really. That's just very
Yeah.
it's meeting their needs that they have that they may not know they have in such a precipitous way. I just really want to applaud you. That's really,
Yeah.
really smart.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, it's just that's cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're all. I mean, to
Yeah.
everybody's comments, we're all trying to figure it out.
Yep.
It's just
Yeah.
like
So
how
Yeah.
can
Yeah, that's interesting.
I know when last we spoke, it was kind of coming out of the CQ conference, and they had the AI task force, and AI was, I guess, much fresher and newer than it is at this point. But one of the big, answers I got, I said, well, what inning is AI in higher ed in? And a lot of the people that helped form the task force said we haven't even come out of the locker room. I'm curious, just kind of listen to how you guys think about it right now. Do you guys think we're still in the locker room, or do you think we've come out? Are we in the first inning, second inning? What do you think?
I mean, I think we're out of the locker room. Maybe inning one, right? Starting to think about all of like how all of this goes together, right?
Sure.
I think there was a bit of a hesitancy to dive in or a wait and see, or we're going to try some things. But I mean, across the board, at least, my colleagues and those that I connect with, everyone's doing something. I haven't come across anyone doing nothing here in this space. I think we have a long way to go to maturity. We talked a lot about students. I think the biggest barrier that I think we face is staff and faculty and their own thinking, right? We're all, and I put myself in that same box. Like we are stuck thinking in a world that is, binary, and we're moving into a non-binary world, if you will, in how some of this capability can be used and where we're at. I think one of our biggest challenges isn't just the tools and the platform, it's the concern that the intelligence, I like the way that Jason put that, just
Sure.
whatever intelligence it is, gets the answer correct, right? And so where we've run into hangups in tools that we've been developing for our students to use that are more assistance, question-based, getting answers is pushback. Well, it could get the answer wrong, or it could hallucinate. And my response is, yeah, but our advisors don't get 100% of the questions right 100% of the time. Like human error is part of what we do every
Right.
day. Why does the machine have to be perfect, but humans are not? And how do we get that into our thinking, right? That kind of hinders some of the things that we've been trying to do is certain areas of the university saying, you have to guarantee me that if a student asks for their course schedule that they should have for their particular degree, right? That the artificial intelligence is saying, okay, next semester you should take engineering 200 and this and that. It has to have 100% the right answer because that student then might be behind in their graduation if they're relying solely on the artificial intelligence. But we could go through probably thousands of examples where current students have made that mistake, whether they used an advisor, didn't use an advisor, and had made some sort of scheduling mistake. So that's part of it, right? And then I think faculty, Provost DiBiase, this is more your world than mine, but then thinking about, well, if you listen to Elon Musk, is there going to be a point where, educators aren't necessary because all the knowledge is there. You can go get it. You don't need someone to give it to you in a classroom. So faculty thinking about, well, what's our role in this teaching? It's that human sort of interaction part with the machine learning and the technology that I think keeps us sort of in that first inning, still trying to
Sure.
figure out. I think eventually, like when we get to the ninth inning, there's going to be, I don't even think we know what that world looks like just yet.
Sure.
yeah, I agree. The only other thing I'll add is I think part of that, the progress we've made as a community is the tech has just gotten better. I mean, 6 months ago, the capabilities of the LLMs, the accuracy, the image generation across the board is just infinitely better. And I'm not affiliated with any of them, but for instance, if you know, if you're generating images and respectful to my ID friends, but if you go into Gemini and use the infographic function and you just start feeding, I mean, the infographics, I mean, they used to be a week and $5,000 with a graphic designer. It's 3 minutes, and I'm not shilling for an LLM here. I'm
Right.
just
Right.
saying, like the progress the models have made images, commercials. I mean, we've done full blown commercials. Yeah, I got we get bids for commercials for like 300 grand, full production. It's like we're doing them for $2,000-3,000, and we've never had better performance. And I know that there's real humans on the other side of some of those shifts, and that's another thing this country is going to have to work through. But I've just seen, a year ago, a year and a half ago, you're trying to generate images. I mean, you're still getting people with 6 fingers and the mouth is up on one side and down, and it's like weird. And now,
Right.
I mean, extraordinarily complex infographics in a minute with one prompt. It's really come a long way in, I'd say, the last 3 to 6 months.
Sure. Sure.
Well, I think I think a lot of things, but I'll say one of the positives is I think that AI and the engaging with it with the faculty, it's actually made our faculty more creative, because they are having to critically think about that output, and even their prompts, their flows, their agents, whatever you want to call them, that they put in depending on how sophisticated they are with what they're using. Um, I have seen more creativity, more excitement, and more engagement from our faculty teams. We're also trying to figure out how to use it to unburden faculty with some of the administrivia, because there is a lot of administrivia in teaching and learning. And so what can we do to free up their time to do more, interpersonal conversations, that relationship building, culture, those, sidebar conversations where you help someone continue to deepen their passion around the subject matter, right? So that's part of what we're working with. So that's sort of the positive of it, but the part that I'm dealing with, that's I don't want to give it a positive or negative, but it's just a challenge. First comes the challenge, then comes the change. So the challenge we're dealing with is the I guess the inequity around the instruction, because it's all on the faculty in how quickly they're adopting it and how they're manifesting it. So the other problem we have with that is we have programs under accreditation bodies, and we need to be meeting a certain standard for licensing. And I'm sure you have that as well. And we want to make sure that we have a certain standardization of instruction happening that is equitable, that is equitably preparing the students, regardless of their location in their class, to be successful on the back end of their student journey. And because of this, I don't know if it's a bell curve or a double bell curve. I don't even know what we're in. So your innings, what curve? I don't know where we are. It's a knotted mess of AI acceptance, utilization, understanding that, and then it's changing every day. So wherever you don't really know when you enter a faculty's room where they are in their level of acceptance and usage of AI, the
Wow.
comfort, right? So is it integrated there? Sure it is, but to what level? There's not a rubric on this of I'm a super user. How am I using it? And so you could still walk into classrooms and they're like, no, I don't use AI at all. It's all on
Right.
you. And so there's just this wide swath of faculty, which does create an inequity in instruction. And now what I don't know, because we haven't been engaging with it long enough, is do we have an inequity of outcomes based on
Mm.
AI levels of engagement? I don't think we've had enough time on that to even know within higher education, as we have continued to partner with it, how it plays out, especially because our students are here for 4 years. I think Jeremy, yours are. I think Jason, they might have a swifter turnaround, but
Yeah.
students that are entering in 2026, when they get out in 2030, I can't tell you
Wow.
how it's going to be for them, how integrated it's going to be. So that inequity for me, but on the positive, I think it's made some really creative faculty initiatives to try and in this case, the peer pressure is good. I've used this and it created this thing, and it creates this enthusiasm, and faculty want to continue to be doing a better job for their students. So that's the positive piece of it. I just worry about the inequity.
Got it. So before I transition to accreditation, I'm just curious, who do you guys think, or from your experience, has been more receptive? Has it been administration or has it been faculty and education?
Well,
But I'm happy to go first. I would say administration, but it's close.
Okay.
We're in a unique spot in that everybody's in a unique spot, by the way, but like our unique spot is, I mean, we've got folks that have taught literally in an airplane hangar or welding bays, for decades in some
Right.
cases, right? And flipping the script, late in your career. I mean, it's been a journey,
Sure.
and so I would say admin close. I just think it breaks down into like almost like personas, or you know there's probably a more elegant term like people types, like I mean there's some faculty who are all in, there's
Yep.
some that like, you know what, I know how to fix a plane, dude, I'm good, like I got it, and that's a really hard conversation. And so but it's close. It's still more about the type of person and their background as opposed to necessarily a specific function, because we have, so I mean we've got a guy, he's earlier in his career, an instructor in Norfolk, and he's like he's blazing a trail with
Sure.
literally using AI and skilled trades instruction, and he's kind of at the forefront. He's an instructor, you never would have thought an instructor would be that progressive with
Right.
technology in the classroom, but he's younger, he's been using stuff for a while. And
Sure.
anyway,
What do you think, Jeremy?
So I don't know that I can fairly answer that question, given it almost treats the faculty as one type of, like,
Mm,
faculty versus administration.
sure.
I think it's easy with the administration to say yes, because they are kind of a singular entity, and I get to see all those folks, and of course they're okay. This is here. We're going to figure out our strategy and use it. So it's easy to say they've got a faster uptake. But
Sure.
when you talk to faculty in pockets or in their disciplines, I mean, I've talked to faculty that have been using machine learning for 20 years in what they teach, right? So
Sure.
saying that they're slow to it is not fair, because they've been
Yep.
doing it forever. And some are doing incredible, things that are very different that we would never think of, and they're excited about it and they're thinking how to do it. There's just so many faculty members at Penn State. It's hard to classify them in one category. There are certainly those that are on the flip side that are, this it needs all of these guidelines and guardrails, and we should not be doing these things. What are the ethical, more, moral implications to machine learning and how we're using it? And we need to slow down. And I'm not going to teach this way. And in dual governance, we can't say you have to do this, right? They own their curriculum. So, I would, it's hard to say one or the other for me. But I think the majority, like if I were to, measure everyone, would be, most folks are, it's here, we have to figure it out. It's imperative for our students. And we're working in that direction.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think the faculty will be my answer because they had to do it first.
Okay.
When it came out in November 2022 and then January 2023, it was seen in the classroom first, and it was also put into for us and Turnitin, and it was in Canvas. It was in the faculty had to grapple with it first. The back end, the front end, there was some time between that because there were all sorts of questions about putting the student data in for enrollment, right? Right. So there were some lots and lots of concerns for the front end. Um, and then the back end. So I'd say the faculty are the ones that probably are using it the most and in the most creative ways, making podcasts, um, using it for research. However they're using, there's a myriad of ways that they're using it. So that's what I think. I think the faculty probably.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What are some of the changes that you're noticing in accreditation, Dr. DiBiase?
So CQ is next week, right? And my director of accreditation is going to be attending. We're just really anxious to hear about the latest, the changes we're concerned about, how it's affecting, the financial aid decisions that are going to be coming into effect very soon this summer. So we're dealing with some of those. We have always been outcomes based as most folks, so we're not so concerned with being able to meet, the gainful employment. That's all already been part of our world for ever. So I don't know how Jeremy is dealing with some of that, but we are. I can't answer your question fully, but I'm reading what CQ and Chia put out every single day. They just were in meetings last week, and I think that we just don't even know. So we are, I think we're just on pause to see sort of not only what happens, how we're going to continue to wrestle with what came down last year, but what else is coming down that we don't yet know how to process, because there's a lot of legalese in there that we're not really sure. And we're just needed to take some extra time to read, understand, speak with our attorneys to make sure that we're making some of the best decisions. So I deal with 9 different accreditors plus institutional in my role.
Sure.
And each of them are coming out with new ways to support us. So I am pro accreditation. I know that might sound crazy for a provost. I'm pro because I know it makes us better. It's just challenging when I'll use your sports, the goalposts change, it feels like on the daily. So
Sure.
it's just keeping up, but where is my home run or my
Right.
touchdown, right? How do I score a touchdown with this accreditor? And we want to stay in good favor. It
Yep.
just feels like it's always a moving target for us. So that's our challenge.
Sure. I was gonna say, Jeremy, I saw you nodding your head.
Yeah, I mean similar. Maybe even a bigger problem for us is trying to figure out some of the like student outcomes, right? Student success, gainful employment. It's not, while we've tracked our students and tried to figure out where they landed, it's not been something that's been a huge part of what we've done. We're investing in more database technology that can help us with sort of the job market analysis, alignment for our students and where they're going, and then even tracking our students to a bigger degree so we can talk about where they're ending up and what they're doing. Our president for probably the entire time she's been here, so 4 years, has been a big proponent of performance-based funding for the state, for the state of Pennsylvania. And she's been part of a task force or committee that's been working on that. So, these are all things that are, I think, swirling around the accreditation world as well as what we're trying to do. But again, as the goalposts continue to move, what are we doing legally that's right, and not just trying to keep all of that aligned. And I couldn't even begin to tell you how many different accreditors and accreditations we have. I know our big one, which is Middle States, for the entire institution, but there's ABET for our engineering department. There's so many that we have to go through and from different pockets of the institution, and some of them are at odds with each other in their own accreditation. So I'm also a believer that it's important, it makes us better, but it's also a lot more work and hard to do when times are changing and you're not sure where to go.
Sure. Jason.
Not much that hasn't already been said. We've as a private sector institution, we've had some changes in regulatory structures, I would say largely over the last 14 years. Gainful, was introduced by the Obama administration as a framework, was, challenging to understand and to adjust to. And it's been changed. The first Trump administration changed the framework, and then so the way we've approached it, and I don't mean to sound like I've got this figured out, because we're all adapting real time to various news cycles, but we realized on this journey as a private sector institution that education was increasingly a political football that would lobby volley back and forth between administrations. Gainful's a great example, right? Like for a while, you had those words in statute in the Higher Ed Act around, as a private sector institution, we should be teaching towards gainful employment. The Obama administration introduced a framework. We had to adjust to all of the data opaqueness and everything. I totally understand and agree with. And then Trump won. Well, let's roll that back. So then there was a temptation among private sector institutions to adapt to that. Certainly, Biden administration then reintroduced a framework back to data opaqueness and trying to understand even what they were looking at. And they introduced draft rules and draft data and like all this scrambling. And it gets increasingly clear to us that this is not about a point in time. It's about a direction. And this is a philosophical comment, and we are a work in progress, and my other two esteemed colleagues on the call are probably far in advance of us. And I say that contextually, not to sound like we have this figured out, but we're just in this area around gainful, setting our standards really high, and you have to address program selection. Like we're not going to pin to a specific neg reg set of rules, at a point in time. We're just going to really get really tight on program selection and really get tight on the highest possible bar we think an administration. We still operate against the original Obama framework. It's not going to be harder than that. And we operated against it then. So that's kind of been our mindset. Again, it's hard. Of course, we have to respond to the news cycle, but to me, it's more about zoom out and just this is the reality. This was an area that, the Higher Ed Act was still passed in 1965 and went for a really long time without a lot of adjustment. And it was very clear to us during the Obama administration that folks were going to politicize higher education funding. They chose private sector schools first. We had to adjust and adapt. I would say largely, and I know Trump too is definitely a hot topic for a lot of folks across higher ed. That world that's been introduced to different types of institutions has been our world, again, as an environment or as a climate for 15 years now. And so for us, it's business as usual. I don't, again, mean to say we haven't figured out, but nothing that we're talking about is more or less than what we've dealt with. And I think it's only going to get increasing. I think the next administration, regardless of party, is going to be another turn, and then there's going to be a turn, and we just got to adjust and adapt,
Absolutely.
Build a bigger regulatory team. What we invest on that is 3x what it used to be. And that's really the outcome is like, if you're a higher ed attorney, man, like, right buying your third beach home.
It's your time. So here's the last question. I'm going to ask this question extremely carefully. How excited are you guys about the intersection of AI and accreditation?
So excited, we were speechless. Come on.
Well, I don't know that there are too many accreditation regs in play right now around artificial intelligence for us to write to in our reports, have questions on in our site visits, and hold our students to outcomes on. But it's probably not far-fetched to say that they might be coming, right? There was a time and place where we used to not have to report out on how we did distance learning.
Right.
In our accreditor. Now we have that as part of all of our accreditation visits. What are you doing face to face? What are you doing, blended, hybrid, whatever, or in distance learning? How do you make sure that your education is equitable regardless of learning modality, right?
Right.
Or delivery modality. It's probably going to get to the point where we're going to have regs embedded in there of how we're teaching to certain standards. And again, it goes back to that equitability. How are you holding faculty accountable? How are you monitoring this? And then, how does it align? Because accreditors are really mostly interested in how the institution is achieving student outcomes for them under their body. So how we use AI as a tool to do it without compromising that rigor is really what the standard. Right now, we don't have standards. So am I excited about it? I don't know that I'm excited, but I'm a realist that it's probably going to be coming. And if I were an author or commissioner on the accrediting boards, I would probably be starting to have meetings about maybe adding that regulation in there, similar to what we did when diversity, equity, inclusion became a regulation for everyone to abide by. So I guess I'm just patiently waiting.
Sure. Jeremy.
So I'm not excited for the parts that Provost DiBiase was just talking about, which is the continuing moving goalposts and what's going to end up in and out, and what you will and will not be able to use the technology necessarily to help you with to prove rigor. However, what I'm excited about, if what our accrediting bodies really want are the student outcomes, right? It takes a lot of effort for a university on top of everything else that we do to really measure and understand student success, right? What do we provide them that they turn into value and go out into the world and do amazing things with? Does the technology of AI, as it mature, become easier for us to do that work, right? Like we have the largest active alumni, right, chapter in the world. We often talk about that, but we don't.
We are.
Yeah, we often don't understand what our alumni are all doing. But are there, platforms then that Penn State has invested in that help us be able to pull back what our students are actually doing out in the world without a lot of manual interpretation that accreditors then would feel comfortable in using and saying, these are the outcomes of a student getting a Penn State degree in engineering, and what we can reasonably expect for their career path. And hey, here's where you're doing well and you're not. And we're not adding more and more resources to just try to figure that out from the human resource factor and manual. So, do the tools ever get good enough that allow that to happen? That's where I would be excited about that potential. But the continual moving goalposts, that's not going to be exciting for a while.
All right. If Jason doesn't have anything else, I can't think of a better place to end it than right there.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say one thing. Come on, I have nothing. I think that was very well thought on both counts. But I'll say something provocative to land the plane here, to use an aviation metaphor. I think what's exciting, and there's a lot to debate about what I'm going to say, so if food for thought on next time. But accreditation is largely, I mean, the value of accreditation is largely held together currently. I think the whole system would start to spiral under the current pressure if it wasn't in statute that that's how financial aid is distributed, right? And so I think there is certainly a large pool of capital and some really talented people saying, okay, you guys continue to play this, quality assurance financial aid. Does the intelligence now, has it risen to such a level that there's new models of education that don't even require Title IV, and that the level of automation and intelligence and the access folks have, I mean, what you have now through Gemini for free in your Google browser, do we just kind of take that thinking and just build institutions that are so efficient and require such a different funding model that Title IV is less relevant? And if Title IV is less relevant, I believe as a function, accreditation is less relevant. And over the next 10 years, 15 years, right, you got to think of long-term horizons, just enable a new type of institution. I've long argued one of the biggest constraints that this country has, whether it's K-12 or higher ed, is how we fund education. It's bizarre and weird to the rest of the world. Whether it's property taxes, meaning the folks who have keep having in K-12, and that strips money out of inner city schools, or if it's this bizarre, put young people into interest-bearing debt before they have a chance of getting started in life in higher ed, is AI finally an unlock to say that world is weird. And in the past, we now have technology to allow us to offer education at a much different cost differential. Because let's not kid ourselves, the reason higher education costs money is buildings and people, period. That's what it's paying money for. If we don't need the buildings and people to deliver the intelligence and the learning, does it cost different? Do we not need Title IV? Do we not need accreditation? You used to have a fundamentally new model. Admittedly, I'm talking over a 15-year horizon. I know it's a fairly radical, provocative thought. but at the current trajectory, there's no way we don't at least get a lot of people with a lot of money really trying, and that will go somewhere. Whether it goes to Elon Musk's vision or a different vision, I don't know, but it's dramatically different, and it gets increasingly hard to argue that accreditation and Title IV is more and not less important in that future world.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
Nothing like pulling the pin and dropping the grenade and then walking out of the room. I love it.
Perfect place to end it. I appreciate you guys. I know how busy you are. If you're working on a novel or you want to give your Instagram, Facebook, or anything like that, you can give it now to the audience. Jason, I know you got a novel coming out.
No, dude, come on. Jeremy and the provost are far better positioned for it.
All right, guys. Well, take care. Thanks a lot.